What are the things that just like, man, I can't wait to get after it today? Like, what is it that's just on a day-to-day basis drives you?
I think the opportunity to be better every single day. I want to prove to everybody in the past that, hey, look at everybody thought I was going to fail. Educators in school, especially in high school and middle school, I was probably voted least likely to succeed if there was a category for that. I really didn't do all my homework. And, I went to so many different high schools. I want to know what happened in the 1800s in Africa. I want to know what's happening in the real world. So when I created my boot camp, I went step by step on how I would learn. And I'm a visual person. And then I realized, well, there's people that aren't visual. So then I had to do another class. And so I did like a mix and match of a way to teach people. So I created a system to make sure that they can learn.
Imagine having direct access to someone who's navigated life's toughest terrains and come out stronger. Someone who's been there, done that, and can guide you with empathy, experience, and honesty. This isn't just advice. It's a lifeline, a strategy session, a chance to learn from my journey so you can accelerate yours. Without the ability to be self-aware and introspective, the ability for you to get to where you want to go, nearly impossible. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the David Guttman podcast. Very special guest with me here today, Shaun Godinez, a.k.a. Shaun Bankz. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to be here.
Obviously, the thrust of my podcast is to interview C-level executives that have a good moral compass. Unfortunately, shockingly rare these days. What I wanted to do in kind of getting to your journey was maybe go all the way back and sort of talk about your childhood and how you got started and maybe what got you to have that sort of entrepreneurial bug, and sort of in kind of your path. But maybe if you wouldn't mind starting back to your childhood, if you don't mind.
Yeah, childhood, right? I mean, that's a time machine going way back. I don't want to expose my age or anything like that, but it's a long time ago. And things were different back then. I feel like this generation is just so much different than my childhood. They have more opportunities, I feel like, with the internet. They have more opportunities with just the networks that can get them there. Unfortunately, I didn't have that type of network growing up, and I didn't have that support. I grew up in a single mother, home. Is that normal? Is it rare? I don't know. But that was my childhood. Grew up. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of extra things, so things were always tight. Things were always past due, and I ended up moving around a lot with my mom, single mom, just getting to be able to move around a lot, going to a lot of different elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. I realized that's not the life I wanted to live, and that's not the life I wanted my mom to live. During the childhood, it was very hard, and stepping into an adult role, I knew that there was opportunity for me. I just had to find it, and I didn't really discover that until after I joined the military. So after high school, I had some regular jobs, and then I joined the military at 22.
At 22, and what was why did you decide on the military? What was the thing that drove you there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the thing that drove me there, I worked at an emergency room in Whittier Presbyterian Hospital, and my goal was to help people. Even though I had no medical background, I was a medical biller, where I would just walk in the room and try to collect money from them. And I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to help people, and seeing people come in the emergency room and then not leaving, I was like, okay, this isn't really doing anything for me. This isn't helping anybody in my life. And I was still living paycheck to paycheck and not really getting ahead. So I wanted to do something completely crazy or completely different that I thought would make a huge impact in my financial or my future.
Now, if I remember from a conversation we had a while ago, there was sort of like a heartbreaking story that was the reason you decided, you know what, this medical billing thing is not for me. Do you mind sharing that? Because
Of
I
course.
remember when
Yeah.
you told me that, I was just like, wow, I think that would cause me to reflect too.
Yeah, that one's deep, but we're on the Dave Guttman show, so we got to go for it. So yeah, there was an incident that came in and where they shut down the whole emergency room. They had a baby coming in, a young infant child coming in and from drowning. They shut the whole place down, which that was the first time I seen them shut down the emergency room waiting for someone to come in. They brought the child in, they performed the best they could, and unfortunately, as they were performing CPR and trying to bring him back to life, my job was to go collect money from the parents. And that wasn't a very good or feeling at all while their kid is literally dying in the next room. And so once the child was deceased, I could just see the mom's heartbreak. It's just devastating. The dad was there as well. And that's the day I was like, you know what? This is not for me. Like, it's just not worth it. Like, there's no amount of money to try to collect from someone whose kid is dying in the next room. So I was like, okay, what can I do different? What do I want to do? And I chose the military because it was something that would guarantee a paycheck. It was something that was going to guarantee food and rent and housing. So I went with the mindset of it's very safe, but at the same time, it's going to be a battle, or it's going to be difficult, leaving what I have behind. So that's what made me join the military.
Now, how was that for you? Because your mom was probably counting you at least in part financially before you joined the military, and so now you're off in the military. You're not there to be a support for your mom, at least maybe financially. You're able to help, be helpful, but not in any other way. Was that hard for her? Was that hard for you? Because up until that point, you'd been together that whole time, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I was definitely helping her financially, but I also think when I left, I maybe saved her money financially as well, because everything I would give my mom, she would give me back tenfold. I would give her $50 for this, and she would give me a gift for $100, and I'm like, okay, mom, like, do not buy me nothing, and that's the type of person my mom is. When I go visit her in Hawaii, she has the car cleaned for me, and she has a bed made for me, and I'm like, I can afford my own apartment now, like, so she just really just looks after me, like, in every single way I can possibly imagine.
So, as you were hopping around, middle schools, high schools, all of that stuff, probably some useful lessons learned, and maybe some battle scars too. Like, what parts of that have you, brought with you, and maybe what parts of that have you had to overcome?
Okay, so as a child, I didn't know what was right or wrong. So, like you said, some scars or some good memories. But as an adult now, I look back, and my goal is to be the hero that little Shaun would look up to. So that's what I'm trying to do every day. Is I want to be the man that I would have wanted someone to be able to look up to, if that makes sense. So as a younger child, I want to look up to somebody. Who's there to look up to? Nobody. So I'm trying to fulfill that role today and be someone's hero.
That's really cool. So now you're in the How long were you in the military for?
So it's 4 years active and then 4 years inactive. So they can call you back at any time if there's anything crazy. But you just got to be in an area. You got to stay at home and stuff like that.
Got it. So, what was your experience? So now you go to the military, obviously very discipline oriented, structured, or, structured kind of environment. Did you thrive in that environment? Did you not like that environment? And what parts of that did you take with you?
Yeah, I actually like the military. I actually like the discipline. I like the structure. I didn't really mind. It's hard work. It's hard work every single day. Nothing's fair. And once you get used to that, you realize, like, hey, it's not fair, but everybody else is doing it too. So you're not getting picked on.
Right.
So I actually like that part of the military. I like the accountability part. I don't mind following rules and orders. And that's what I was really excited about when I got out. I noticed that when I got out, even though I didn't have much getting out of the military, I had discipline, I had character. I was able to do things that other people couldn't do because of their lack of discipline.
It's funny you say, it wasn't fair, but it was even-handed, even-handedly unfair. I mean, it's kind of funny that, people talk about it all the time. A lot of people that have kind of a victim mentality. Oh, it's not fair. Life's not fair. I don't know where anyone thinks life's fair.
Why should life be fair,
Yeah,
right?
that it's all going to work out, and just because, you'd like it to be a certain way and it's not, I don't know. So I do think that's an interesting lesson. But so now you come out of the military, how do you feel the military and maybe more broadly the government, treats their veterans? How did they feel like they treated you?
Poorly. I think they failed. I don't think they did a good job at all. Again, life's not fair, but when you see homeless veterans on the street that don't have any issues as far as drugs, a lot of it is they get put back out. They join at 18 years old. They're kids. They don't really know what's going on. The standard is 4 years, so they get out at 22, and sometimes they can't cope or come back to that civilian life because they are so used to order and discipline. They expect things to be done at a certain time because that's what they've been doing for the last 4 years. And they have a hard time adjusting back to the civilian life. So the government and they try to, the last 3 months of your career, they try to, give you a program to get you back in to the civilian life, help you with a resume, but it's just not good enough. It's just not there. And so when I got out, I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't really have much. I hopped around couches and, not the greatest. And I was very disciplined though. I remember waking up, out of the military, getting out. I remember waking up on the couch and I remember 4 o'clock in the morning going for a run. Like that was just my routine. Like, oh, it's 4 in the morning. I gotta go for my run.
Right.
Okay, it's 5:30. Gotta get my breakfast. So I kept the same habits. And I think because of that, I knew I would go farther than most people because no one's up at 4 in the morning
Right.
and no one's doing the things that I would do. And so it was a challenge adjusting back to the civilian life with less money, less friends. Because again, I'm gone most of my 20s. And by the time I got back out, everybody's having kids, they're married, they have their careers. So it was a very culture shock, I would say, even though from the same background culture, it's still a culture shock.
So you grew up without, a dad in the household. How did you who was your role model? Who were you trying to emulate, if anyone? And because I'm trying to imagine, I mean, look, for me, I think I had a great dad, but by most standards. But even still, even I was like, well, I don't know if that's the person I want to be. So I think everyone struggles with it a little bit, but I imagine how much harder it would be if you didn't have a dad in the house. And so how did you kind of decide for yourself? Was there someone you met in the military or a coach you had, or is it just something you're like, you know what, I'm just going to design myself?
Yeah, I mean, not having a strong role model growing up, it was a lot of freedom, which freedom isn't good. That's what they say on the calendars. If if you have a job and you have a lot of white space, which is dead space, you can get yourself in trouble. Or so there was not a lot of guidance growing up. So I didn't know, the moral compass wasn't maybe all there, but I knew the difference between right and wrong. After the military, having that discipline, having that accountability, still didn't really see anybody as that kind of role model. And I just knew if I just worked harder and just kept working at it, eventually I would succeed at anything I do. So it's like the persistence and the consistency. And I think that just, emulates the whole Marine Corps attitude of not quitting, never giving up, always fighting to the last breath. And if you do that, you should prevail, you should win. And so I think that's just how my mentality has been since the last 9 years.
So would you say that effectively you really didn't have a role model?
Yeah, I really didn't have a role model up until these last couple of years.
Right.
I started having a better network and I started seeing more people. And, I didn't know there were people that just care for you for no benefit to them.
Right.
There's people out there that are just really good people like yourself.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that are just really naturally good people that don't really want anything for themselves. They just want to help others. And I take what I can from all the good people and I try to emulate that. And I want to also be a role model to some others one day.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, so let's talk a little bit about maybe your transition from, when you go from homeless, Uber driver, then all of a sudden you're a trader, getting really nice payouts. Talk a little bit about that transition, how you got introduced to trading, and then maybe how you took that military discipline and applied it to something constructive.
Yeah. So even though living on a couch or living in a shed, because I lived in a shed for a period of time as well, again, I didn't have a lot of income. So I figured, what could I do that's on my time, on my schedule, that will pay me something? And Uber was a ride sharing company that I signed up with. And I think I signed up because there was like a referral link where if I do a certain amount of rides, I get a bonus. And I was like, I need that bonus. So I started doing Uber. And in between there, I met a bunch of rideshare customers. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I couldn't be more excited to have done Uber because without Uber, I wouldn't have met the network that I met. I met a kid that was a Forex trader and I was driving him to the BMW dealership. And this kid was like 19 years old, multiple payouts, really successful. And I'm like, wait, if this kid can do it, I know I can do it. I have nothing stopping me. I didn't want to say it, but I'm like, I know I'm smart enough to do this. So I asked him, I reached out and asked him for some guidance and mentorship. And I ended up, signing up with his mentorship course.
I took your boot camp, which you were kind enough to take me through. And I've also, back from when I was, CEO at top tier trader, I met a lot of traders. I have never met someone that's as detail oriented and as disciplined about their process as you are. How did you, and even for me with a pretty strong financial and, statistics and math background education, it's intimidating for me, right? I can imagine someone who maybe didn't have that quite same background, or, how did you figure all that stuff out? I mean, it really is amazing, honestly.
Thank you. So as I was taking his mentorship and learning more and more and more, I realized that okay, not only can I do this, but I can also teach this. But if I were to teach this, how would I want this done? What would I want done to be, over the top? Everything I do, I want to overvalue and over deliver. So I figured, why not create not only a great course, but one that's super easy, Barney style, I would say,
Right.
breaking it down to ensure that whoever takes this course would actually learn the material that is handed out to them. So I went through and every single time I do the boot camp, I honestly tweak it a little bit more and more every time. So every boot camp I do is the best boot camp possible.
The educational aspect of what I was trying to accomplish at top tier was the part that was most exciting to me. Because I felt like there was always this friction between, well, if we educate people and we make them too good of a trader, all of a sudden maybe they're going to clean us out, right? And not only that, but back at top tier, we were a Forex prop firm, so we could only create education around Forex stuff. We couldn't do other asset classes. Maybe let's talk a little bit about Elite Trader Academy and kind of, your role there, and maybe why you're excited about that, and maybe some of the limitations we don't have there that maybe we had back when we were top tier.
Yeah. Elite Trader Academy, super excited. We are creating not only a boot camp, but an ecosystem of traders that can actually learn, but not only Forex. We're going to be opening up the future space, option space, stocks, commodities. So anything you want to do in the day trading space, Elite Trader Academy can help you get there. I'm also super excited because we're not only doing like virtual boot camps or in-person boot camps, we're holding their students' hands to make sure that they feel confident. I was talking to someone earlier today and I said, I truly believe if they do not come to Elite Trader Academy boot camp and learn from us, they're getting a disservice because they're going to go out there in the world and pay for education that's not quality. So my role there is I'm the chief revenue officer. So I'm in charge of all the revenue and stuff coming in like that. But my main role is as an educator. That's my main role, is to bridge the gap from people who want to learn how to trade and create profitable traders. That's my main role there. And that's why I'm most excited is I'm actually able to train thousands of people this coming up year and into the Forex and future space.
So now, is all the education going to be paid, or is there a mix of free and paid, and how does that all work?
So we're going to have a tier that's no man left behind, right? So we want
Marines.
Yes, exactly. We want to make sure that no matter what your budget is, you have an opportunity to learn from us. We don't care if you're a millionaire and we don't care if you're broke. We want to make sure that there's an opportunity. So we do have our higher ticket for people that want to come one-on-one in person or a small group. And then we have our community channels where it's online and it's more of a bigger community, but less monetary.
And is there anything that's free?
Yes, of course, right? So again, no man left behind. We want to make sure that we also have a free product, which is a very basic course, but it's very comprehensive to understand if this is something that you want to continue doing. So we have our free product coming out early next year in 2025. That's going to be a game changer because it's going to allow people that always wanted to kind of know a little bit more, but never wanted to pay to learn. This is going to give them a step-by-step structured breakdown instead of just searching hours on YouTube and not understanding if you're catching the middle or the end or the beginning of something new. This is going to literally hold your hand in the beginning, at least for the free course.
So the part about this that I think is so interesting and exciting is I think it makes really good sense, and it didn't occur to me at the time back when I was a top tier, but divorcing the education from the trading whether you're a prop firm or a brokerage or whatever it might be, is, hey, let's just focus on the education. Let's do the absolute best job we can possibly do of getting people as capable as we can, and and help them along, and not have any kind of a friction between, oh, maybe we don't make them too good.
Correct.
But you've had, what is it, something like 1,500 people that have gone through your various forms of training over the years,
Yeah, over 1,500 people worldwide.
right?
So I've trained people in other countries, and I wasn't there personally, but we did the virtual boot camps, or they would fly in. I've had a lot of people from India fly in, and we've trained them. Canada, so that is another country.
Yeah, well, I don't know. According to Trump, it's the 51st state.
Exactly right.
Justin Trudeau's the governor, right?
Governor of
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah. Well, so 1,500 is a lot of people, and like you said, from all walks of life, all over the world. What are the common things? I'm really just more curiosity from my part, more than anything else. What are the common themes that are things you can identify in someone and say, that's someone who's going to be successful?
Someone, in the 30-day boot camp, the first 3 days is really informational, educational, making sure their computers are set up. The next 30 days is a full-on boot camp where we go step by step and give you tons of homework and tests along the way. Whoever finishes the 30-day boot camp has extreme chances to be successful. That's kind of where, we see, people not completing their homework maybe on time. That's going to be the factor on, is this going to be a great student? So I would say the amount of workload we give them and the amount of dedication they put toward it.
Right. Got it. So do they put in the effort? And, it's like, the David Gogginses of the world are the ones that ultimately, and it's an incremental improvement every single day. Don't need to be a rocket scientist, don't need to be a genius, but you do need to be disciplined.
Yep, discipline and consistent.
Right.
That's all it really takes is a lot of consistency. A lot of people think it's a get rich quick overnight, and that's exactly what we're not trying to promote. At Elite Trader Academy, we understand that it's a skill set. Just like anything else in the world, if you want to be a pilot, you got to put in thousands of hours to fly commercially. Anything you want to do in life, you got to put the time in, and that's the same for trading.
It's funny. I think a lot of people, whether they're in the space directly or in some of the adjacencies, there's so much flash, right? And all the stuff on Instagram, and the people on their new Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, going on these cruises. People don't realize how much of it's BS. The fact that there are these marketing accounts where people can fake their trades, can fake their payouts. And so people are like creating channels. Oh, I went from $100 to $1 million, in 2 months, and you can too. Like you said, the get rich quick stuff. It's just, to me, being able to, because we're no longer in the prop space, we're just in the education space, we don't have that friction anymore. So how important is the why? I know like you being able to not just take care of yourself, but being able to take care of your mom was a big part of your why. How important is the why, do you think, in the people that go through your education and are successful?
It's critical, right? Everything's important. Everything's important, I say. But on day 3, we set up goals, and we want to make sure that their goals are realistic and they align with what they want at the end goal. My end goal is to really just take care of the people that are always taking care of me. I want to retire my mom even more, even though she's fully retired. It would be nice to just, help her out even more. And for myself, I just want to live a great, great life. But living a great life is amazing. But if you don't have a purpose and you're not helping others, then what's the real point? I'm not the flashiest guy in the room, I guarantee it. But I understand that I'm probably the best educator in the space.
Well, I'll tell you that because both my 24-year-old daughter and my 82-year-old dad went through your boot camp too. And my daughter was just blown away by how good of a teacher how patient you were.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's funny. I think that people. Well, you talked a little bit about what your purpose is. So, or having a purpose. How would you put that into words? Like, what would you say your purpose is?
So my purpose is I want to go big, and that doesn't mean with more money or more bigger houses. No, I want to be big. I want to leave a legacy behind on. At Elite Trader Academy, you will learn how to be a trader. You will feel confident. It's a safe ecosystem. Anything that you come in, it's one-on-one mentorship. There's group sessions. It's a community, and I want people to live their best lives, no matter where they're from. If I can do it, so can they. I didn't have a mentor as good as me, but everybody deserves a chance to do this and make it.
So you've been in, you've been in the military, you've done high-end car sales, you've driven for Uber, you did a whole bunch of stuff back at Top Tier, you've done stuff totally on your own. So you've had a fair amount of exposure to leadership in a bunch of different flavors. Kind of like, what's your experience with, let's call it more corporate America versus sort of the entrepreneurship path, and kind of what your experiences are there?
Yeah, corporate America and me never really got along. It's like oil and water. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and my goal is to understand what I can do or bring to the establishment and deliver on that. As far as corporate America, there's too many emails, there's too many meetings. I've been in corporate America once, and it's like meeting after meeting after meeting. At the end of the day, I'm like, man, 10 hours of Zooms and I didn't get nothing done yet. So, being the entrepreneur that I am, understanding that I have to deliver and I have to bring in revenue every day. That's one of my reasons why I love trading. It could be done in the mornings, it could be done at nights, it could be done if you have a full-time job, it could be done if you're in the military. So understanding the freedom that gave me the opportunity to try different things. Because again, I wouldn't have taken so many chances with anything if I had to rely on that only. That's why I'm so comfortable, just living my best life, but also being within means, no Ferraris or Lambos over here.
Right, right. Well, so talk a little bit about, because it's interesting that, without having necessarily the best role model, you're able to navigate and find your own path. I mean, how do you think that happened? It's just how you're wired. Do you feel like it's someone you came across, again, maybe it was, someone from your military background? I'm just curious, like, how you found your path.
That's a great question, right? I don't know. I just knew that other people were winning that I knew weren't working as hard as they could be. And I knew I was a harder worker than most people out there. And being in that military, I was like, okay, no one's going to beat me. I'll just wake up earlier. I'll put in 10 more hours per day than them. Eventually, someone's got to see that, hey, Shaun's a harder worker. And the more you do something with consistency and intention, you just rise to the top. Like for car sales, for example, if I'm there 10 hours a day and you're there 5, you're going to sell some cars. But if I'm there every single day for 10 hours, I'm going to sell more cars than you at the end of the month.
Right.
Just makes sense. So I knew just work harder than everybody else.
Slow and steady wins the race. I know. And I know you did a little bit of wrestling too, but it's like same kind of thing. It's like if you just show up and put in the work, that's not the whole game, but it's a big piece of it.
Correct. Yeah, definitely not the whole game. There's a lot of pieces that you still have to have. You can't just show up to work and be there 10 hours a day. You have to do something that wows others, maybe giving up time, giving up resources, just doing selfless acts because you have to understand that money comes and goes and it's a tool. It's just a tool. And if you put too much emphasis on that, you'll get drowned out by trying to make more money. And at the end of the day, it's like, like 10 years ago, my goal was to make 5,000 a month. That would be, man, if I could make 5,000 a month, I would be set. 5 years ago, my goal was 10,000 a month. If I could make 10,000, oh man, I'll be the happiest person.
Right.
And as I was moving up the ranks, no matter how much money I was making, I made $4,000 this morning in trading on 2 different accounts. Didn't make me any happier.
Right.
I still want to go to Hawaii this month. I still want to go see my mom for Christmas and surprise her. So I want to do a lot of things that money just doesn't really matter at some points. It's important to have and you need it, but you got to have a bigger purpose, a bigger why than just money if you're going to be a successful trader.
You've obviously, just by virtue of the fact that literally your job, 1,500 people is to be their educator, to be their mentor. How do you think about mentorship of others? How do you think about service to others and sort of, how that plays now that you're in this chief revenue officer role? How do you think about that?
Well, service to others is huge. The more I do and give back, I actually had a mentor. He passed away, and he said, "Do good and you'll do well." So if you just do good, you'll do well in life. It doesn't say do well and you'll be good. No, you have to do good to be well. And that just resonated with me because again, being of service to others, over delivering, just being there, they're going to see the difference in other people that are just there for like maybe the money or a title. I think I talked to you a long time ago. And I told you, I was like, I don't care about titles.
Right.
I want to train people. I want to help people. And I just want to live a good life. Doesn't mean, the yachts every day or anything. I want to live a healthy life, a purposeful life, an intentful life.
Now, I've seen with my own two eyes, your team, how hard they work, how loyal they are. Talk a little bit about, because obviously that's something that's near and dear to my heart. I've been an executive for a while, and you can't execute on anything well if you can't build a team. So maybe talk about kind of what you look for in a team member, how you motivate people, and just how you think about how to build that that sort of killer team.
Yeah. A killer team, when I look to hire people, I don't look at I look at their experience to see if they have any background in the space. But at the same time, I look at what type of person they are. That matters because I can train anybody to do sales. I can train someone to do appointment sales or appointment setting. But what I can't train is good people, right? So like if you're not a good person and you're always trying to get one over, you're always trying to cut corners, it's like what happens, someone told me, do the right thing when no one's looking. That's something from the Marine Corps. Do the right thing when no one's looking so you don't ever have to look over your shoulder. I look at people and I want them to understand that I'm not going to micromanage. I'm not going to babysit. It's a grown job, So I look at people with responsibility and people that have that motivation, that drive to want to do more. And then I ask them, I have a test. It's I don't know exactly what it's called, but I'll drop like a pen on the floor. We'll be sitting here and I'll drop a pen on the floor and see if they pick it up naturally, reaction, or if they're trying to impress me or something like that. So it's just a little test to see if they're serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a lunch in Miami a couple of days ago, and this manager was doing interviews. And out of the 3 people he interviewed, I sat there the whole time and watched him interview one after the other. The manager would go, move the dishes out of the way, sit down, do the interview. He'll get up, he'll walk away, and then the other person would walk away as well. But on the 3rd interview, he moved all the stuff to the side, sat there, talked to the gentleman. He got up to leave, and the gentleman put the dishes back. And he said, hey, you're hired because you're the only person that did that. So, and the other 2 people were great candidates because I was right there as well. But the 3rd person, because he went not even out of his way, because it was natural for him to fix what they messed up in the beginning, that manager saw something in him. And I think that was a good hire for him.
Interesting. I remember when I was in business school, most of my professors were useless. But I had this one guy who had been an entrepreneur and had literally dozens and dozens of businesses he'd owned throughout the years. And he had what he called area managers that would be responsible for a group of businesses. And, he would intentionally hire people that didn't have a college degree. He wanted people that were super hardworking, real hustlers that almost had a chip on their shoulder because they didn't have the college degree. But there were 2 things he said he would do to test them, kind of like your pen test a little bit, or the dishes.
Yeah.
What he would do is, one, he would play golf with them and see if they counted all their strokes or not, right? Because he's like, I need them to count businesses and money and stuff like that to see if they'd be honest. And the second thing he would do is his very last interview, he'd take them out for a really nice dinner, super swanky restaurant, dressed up, stuff like that. And he would pay the waiter or waitress to dump water on them to see how they'd react. Would they flip out? Would they curse the person out? He'd be like, don't worry about it. Hey, it happens, no big deal. And yeah, this guy he had to be worth over $200 million. And I never forgot those lessons because you're exactly right. Reminds me of 2 things. Elon Musk talks about this, where if you hire just purely on talent, you're going to definitely make some big mistakes. Talent doesn't always win the day. In fact, and sometimes talent's a crutch, to overcome a lack of effort, right? And the other one is, someone had showed me, and you'll appreciate this with your military background. I think it was Simon Sinek interviewed a bunch of Navy SEALs, and he did like a 2x2 grid where it was how trustworthy was someone on one axis and how talented were they on the other. Now, obviously, the perfect world, you want someone who's super trustworthy and super talented, but he's like, that's the dream, but there's very few people that fall into that category. He's like, I would rather get someone who's not that talented, who's super trustworthy, than someone who's super talented and not trustworthy. Like you were saying, hire the good person and teach them the ability, the
Correct.
skill.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really not hard to teach someone the skill of sales. It's just repetition, practice. And the type of sales that we're doing, I even hate to call it sales. It's honestly not. We're giving people an opportunity. We're bridging the gap for them. If they're living on a couch or living in a shed, we want them to understand that we're here for them. We're not trying to sell them anything. We're trying to give them hope and give them an opportunity.
So if you could go back 10 years in time, 15 years in time, and give your younger version of yourself a couple pieces of advice, what might that be?
Man, never been asked that, right? If I can go back in time 15 years, I would be 25 years old. 25 years old, I'd say don't go to Vegas. Right? Don't do that at 25 years old. I would say start working harder sooner because time flies. One day you're 25, the next day you're 35, and the next day you're wondering where those years went. So I would say start now, start today. Whatever you want to do, start today. If you're not happy in your job, look for something that brings you passion, look for something that makes you happy and start chasing that because the worst thing to do is live your whole life and be 50 years old and look back and say, man, where'd all those years go? And then you're laid off from a job that didn't care about you at all.
Yeah. So, when you think about, because you brought it up, when you think about your legacy, what would you like your legacy to be?
I want everybody to know that Shaun Bankz was the best influence that money can buy. No, I'm playing. No, but Shaun Bankz is going to be the man that's going to be able to help you get to where you're going to be. Shaun Bankz is going to be the person that if you bet on Shaun Bankz, you're going to win. I want people to know that I'm the most trusted source and my whole team or ecosystem is the same way. It's really important to have a team. Like you said, you can't do anything by yourself. And when I'm hiring people, I look for people with different skill sets. I was talking to a friend today, and we were talking about how we're just talking a bunch about how one man had 12 disciples, let's say, and each one had a different characteristic that brought so much value. And you can't do anything by yourself these days. And just talking to a good network of people, having people on your team that can share those words of wisdom is life changing. So I would say if I can go back 15 years, work harder, work on something you're passionate about, surround yourself with better people than you, which means, just go to nicer restaurants, do nicer things because anybody you're hanging around with now, if you're not where you want to be at and you can't look up to them, just find a new circle.
Sure. One of the things I found, and this is surprising, very surprising to me, that the people that are the most financially successful are oftentimes the most, sort of their life is out of balance, and they're often among the most miserable people. I remember, my daughter grew up the poorest kid in the wealthiest neighborhood of Chicago, suburb of Chicago. And a lot of the kids she went to high school with, head coach of the Chicago Bears, CEO of Garrett's Popcorn, CEO of, Potbelly sandwich shops, people worth crazy amount of money. The amount of, substance abuse issues, infidelity issues, not really being a present parent. Like it was stunning how, outside of the financial realm, how unsuccessful these people really were. What's your experience in that realm, when you're dealing with people that are financially successful, and how do you avoid that for yourself?
Yeah, so I see it's they're trying to fill a void. They're trying to fill something that they were lacking. And I was talking to someone today saying how money is just an amplifier. If you're an alcoholic and you make a lot of money, you're just going to drink yourself to death. It's just an amplifier of who you are as a person. Again, money is just a tool. So I've seen so many successful people 70, 80, 90 years old, and they're really, really successful, but they're alone and they're by themselves. And, they're just, unfortunately, they just, they don't have anybody else because no one likes that type of person. And then I've seen people that are somewhat successful and like you said, they have some sort of substance abuse issue or fidelity issue. And again, those people are just trying to fill a void that they think they can get away with it maybe because they have a lot of money. For me is I understand my why. I understand why I'm doing everything. I do everything with intent. So I understand that my goal is to again, this year, I want to create minimum 10 millionaires. And how I'm going to do that is by having enough people come through the academy. Once they come through the academy, once I train them and hold their hand, I want to create 10 millionaires this year. So that's my goal.
I love that. 10 millionaires. I love that. Huh. Never heard someone say that before. But I love that. Huh. How'd you come up with the number 10?
You know what? That's a goal I have. Just,
Right.
10, start off, with
Sure.
a reasonable number.
Right.
And then eventually I want to keep raising it up.
I remember hearing one of Tony Robbins's stories, I guess when he grew up, in an environment maybe not so different from your childhood, a lot of hand to mouth and moving around a lot. And I remember, his dad was in the household, but he was, I think he was unemployed. But I remember him telling a story about they didn't have any food for Thanksgiving, and I don't know if it was through a church or something, but someone came by and they were going to provide like a whole Thanksgiving dinner for the family, and the dad, because of his ego, basically sent them away, and so they all went hungry, even though they were offered this, basically, feast. And so Tony Robbins started doing. I think he started doing it when he was like 19 or 20, where he I think the first year was like 3 meals for 3 families, and then the next year it was 20. Then it was 200. I think he does it now. I think it's something like 100,000 or some crazy number now. So we'll start with 10 millionaires next year and we'll see where we are in 5 years.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I actually went out on Thanksgiving, not last year, but the year before, and fed some people that I was trying to find on the street. We cooked the whole thing, packaged it up for about 50 to-go plates pretty much. And it was actually pretty funny because we drove around for 2-3 hours and we couldn't find nobody to give them to. We searched a long night for those people.
Oh, that's too funny. So, what are the things that, get you, excited to get out of bed in the morning and really are driving you? I mean, obviously I know what you're doing at Elite Trader Academy, but like, what are the things that just like, man, I can't wait to get after it today? Like, what is it that's just on a day-to-day basis drives you?
I think the opportunity to be better every single day. I want to prove to everybody in the past that, hey, look, everybody thought I was going to fail. Educators in school, especially in high school and middle school, I was probably voted least likely to succeed if there was a
Really?
category for that. And the reason why is because I really didn't do all my homework, and I went to so many different high schools, and so they didn't really know me. And knowing or having that negative connotation coming in, it's like, oh, he just came into school, he's already not doing his homework. Again, no guidance. I didn't think I had to do it. It kind of showed people that, okay, Shaun can't do this, he's not going to do it. And then after the military, when they doubted that I can learn how to trade, and hey, you might want to quit and get a job, and I just couldn't believe that no one believed in me. So I was like, okay, you know what? Hold my coffee. I'm gonna go get this done.
Hold my coffee, not hold my beer.
Yeah, hold my coffee. And I wanted to prove everybody wrong. So it was a very big moment that I wanted to prove people wrong. And then after I was able, now that I'm successful and I'm doing great, it's I'm proud to have people congratulate me, and that look back and like, man, Shaun, you're doing so great. I'm so proud of you. I read it every day on my Instagram. People are like, oh, I knew you 10 years ago, Shaun. I'm so proud of you. I'm like, that's weird. 10 years ago, you didn't think I was going to make it. So
It's funny you say that. Obviously, our mutual friend Alex, he has a similar story to that, which is like when he told me he was like a C, D, and F student in high school, but he was in the ROTC thing in high school, and that was a game changer for him. And they ended up being like head of the ROTC program eventually and so forth. So he didn't go in the military like you did, but I remember him saying that was a game changer for him. And I remember same thing, I'm like, really? You were a bad student? And I felt the same way when you said that. I was sort of like, because I remember that first time when we sat down at the Formula One event and you were showing me some of the stuff that you had done for your education stuff. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this. This is not what you expect a person who doesn't do their homework to do.
Right. Yeah. I think it's because it was me. Like, I didn't want to learn about the history, or I didn't want to learn about geography. Like,
Right.
I want to know what happened in the 1800s in Africa. I want to know what's happening in the real world. So when I created my boot camp, I went step by step on how I would learn. And I'm a visual person. And then I realized, well, there's people that aren't visual. So then I had to do another class. And so I did like a mix and match of a way to teach people the way I would want to learn, because again, people say they're not good test takers or good learners. So I created a system to make sure that they can learn.
Did breaking all of that stuff down so that you could teach other people make you a better trader?
100%. Yeah. Me going through the same, actually, it's funny. I use a strategy now called trapping that I discovered while teaching. So after about 3 years of teaching, I had a student after I was teaching, I was like, oh, this is a sell stop. And then I was like, oh, you could do a buy stop. And these are pending orders. He's like, Shaun, why don't you do both? And I'm like, why don't I do both? And I'm like, that's a great question. And I'm like, I could do both. And then that's when I started developing more and more strategies. So now, not only am I a profitable trader, my main goal is I like to figure out strategies. I like to do things that are a little bit different. People don't understand how trading works. Just a couple weeks ago, you could trade lumber. You could trade live cattle. So what happens if a lumber field or a lumber warehouse goes on fire? Well, the demand's going to go up for lumber. So you can actually buy lumber, and as it increases, make money on it. Isn't that
amazing?
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me that, there are so many ways to be successful. And I remember when I heard your story, when Alex was telling me about his story, it reminded me of my own journey. And like, you can reinvent yourself. Like, people think that they're locked into the life that they're in, and they don't realize that they're the warden of their own prison. They can let themselves out anytime they choose. Now, I don't want to make it sound like it's trivially easy, but at the end of the day, like, your ability to be successful is entirely dependent on your ability to put in the work.
100%. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have bad environments, which it's terrible. But again, you're the warden of your own prison. You can understand that if someone says, hey, you're not smart to do that, that's their belief. That's not true at all. That's just their belief. And that's what happened to me is I got so, disappointed in people thinking I would fail that I was like, wait, I was in the Marine Corps. I've done high ticket sales. I'm not a failure. I just haven't found the thing that I'm good at or the thing I want to do. Because I made money in car sales, but honestly, it was good money. I was making like 12 grand a month, but it wasn't something I was passionate about doing.
Right.
I can, go today to Mercedes and go style cars and make 12 grand a month, but that's not what I want to do. And if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. A lot of people do things they don't want to do because they have to. And that's what I'm trying to get this whole mind switch is like, you don't have to do things you don't want to do. If you want to learn how to trade, come over to Elite Trader Academy and learn how to trade.
If you could only pick one moment in your entire life that you are most proud of, what would you say that moment was?
So one moment that I was the most proud of.
Yeah, the thing, the accomplishment, whatever it was. Yeah.
I'm gonna sizzle on that one for a minute.
Go ahead, sizzle on that. Well, you sizzle on that one. Another question I have for you: of the people that I have, met and spent significant time with, I would say you're towards the top of the list of people that could have taken and had more of a victim mentality and almost have it be understandable. You don't. Why is that?
Because nobody cares. Nobody's going to care about my victim mindset. That's the truth. Again, talking to someone today is if I passed away today, the sun is still going to come up tomorrow. Good memories about Shaun, but the world is still going to turn. So me having a victim mindset doesn't help me. It doesn't help anybody in my position. It doesn't help the person that feels bad for me. So why do something that has no, it's a victim mindset. It's just terrible to have. And I'm not going to have that kind of mindset.
Well, not to put you on the spot to psychoanalyze the rest of the world, but why do you think, because I don't know, if I had to put percentages on it, I'd say something like at least half the world, at least the people I interact with, have, some reasonable level of victim mentality. Why do you think some people do and some people don't?
I think it all comes down to childhood, right? How you were raised or how you weren't raised. And I understood there's people that had a really good childhood and they have a victim mindset now. Like, oh, I was taken, I went to private school and I had to go do this and it was so hard. And they have a victim mindset for having too good of a life. So it's
yeah, wow.
So it's really, I think it's just, the individual. I think it's what you would allow in. I see people doing it. I see people that are way more successful than me. And I'm like, wait, I work harder than them. I should be well, what are they doing different? Oh, they're putting in the work. So I think just putting in the work and making sure that there's no reason to have a victim mindset. You're in control of your mindset. If you can literally control anything with your mind, you just have to go and get it.
It's funny. I think that, it'd be interesting to actually do a study on this, because I think that the challenge for a lot of people, to your example about people that grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth, that haven't really had hardships to really overcome, that's what builds character. That's what builds, self-reliance and self-belief is, oh, that really hard thing that I had to overcome and I did overcome. Like, oh, here's another hard situation. Well, I did it before. Maybe I can do it again. You do that 3, 4, 5, 6 times. All of a sudden, now people call you resilient, right? I think that person who grows up maybe a little too easy, they don't have that resilience. I know it's been the single biggest thing I've struggled with in trying to parent my daughter is how much suffering do I allow her to have, right? Because it's like, you don't want to let your kids suffer, but if you don't let them suffer, in some regards, you rob them of their ability to grow.
100%. Yeah, it is a growing factor where if the harder you have it, the harder it is to get through it. And nothing's hard. It's just hard because it's your first time doing it, maybe, or it's hard because you've never done it. But once you do it a couple times, now it's not hard. People, oh, man, you're lucky or you're resilient. Yeah, because I've done it so many times. That's why I have no fear. Like, I don't really have any fear. It's, again, I've been on the bottom and I've been at the top, and you could take everything away from me and I can get it all back because it means nothing to me. And that's the mindset I have is I don't like to show what I got. I like to help people get what they want. And that means more to me because at the end of the day, like, I like drinking my fancier water. I like going to nicer restaurants and I like eating clean. But at the same time, that's a choice that I make. Even if I had no money, I would still want to eat the healthier stuff. I still want to take care of my body and my mindset. And as long as I take care of those two things, that's all I really need in life.
Fear is an interesting thing. It's funny you say that. And I know you know this, my backstory, but I was told I was dying of cancer when I was 24, and I think part of the reason why I don't really fear anything is I genuinely faced my mortality when I was still quite young, and obviously didn't die. And it's because what I find, and this happens in business all the time, right? Where as soon as your fear mechanism, your flight or fight is triggered, you stop thinking. Like your brain shuts down. I imagine in the military, they must train on that too, right? Which is as soon as you become scared, like you can no longer think clearly. How do you, does that enter into it at all as a trader? Like, how do you teach should you teach a trader to be fearless? How do you think about that?
Yeah. I let people know fear is all in your own mind. What are you fearful of? And it's the unknown. That's the biggest thing. When people do anything in life, it's, oh, I'm scared because I'm going to fail. I think people put too much emphasis on, oh, what if it goes wrong? They always put the worst case scenario out and they try to manifest the worst case scenario, where me, I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, what's the best thing that can ever happen?
Right.
If I do trading and I'm not good at it, what's the worst that can happen? Well, I waste a year, I waste a little bit of money. Okay. And I got to start over. That's not great. Okay. But what's the best thing that can happen? Well, the best thing is I can help my mom. The best thing is I can help my friends. The best thing is I can live the life I want to live. The best thing is I can travel and be anywhere in the world and make trades. So why am I scared of the worst thing when the best thing is just so much more powerful?
Well, not only that, right? But the worst case scenario is so unlikely.
Correct. And the worst case isn't that bad. It's just starting over again. And that's how life is. It's a journey. You can't do everything right the first time. And if you expect to do it right the first time, you're going to be very disappointed as you grow up because it doesn't work out the right way the first time. Yeah,
I definitely think that getting comfortable with failure, because again, that's the other thing too. Even the label of failure, right? I forget. I think it's a fairly common thing. People say, I think people with the right mindset say, well, I either win or I learn.
Correct.
Right? It's only a failure if you stop.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, 100%. When you quit, that's when you fail because you quit on yourself. And that's the thing about me is I don't want to be known as a quitter. I don't want to be known as a loser. So I'm doing a lot to make sure that my image is, just the best it can be. And at the same time, I want to lead by example. That's another thing I learned in the Marine Corps is if you want someone to do it, did you do it yourself? So every single day when I wake up, it's because even though no one's looking at me, again, doing the right thing when no one's looking, the results will show. So my team sees me up at 5:30 in the morning. My team sees me up till midnight. They see that I'm working all day and night. And so the reason why I have their loyalty is because I'm there for them. Everything they need, I'm there for them. Even though they may work for me, I don't look at it like that. I we work together. I just work a little bit more hours because I'm that much more determined.
Yeah, it's funny. I think people aren't careful enough with the words they use. They don't understand how impactful words can be. Um, Communication is just an undervalued skill broadly. But even like, it's not even just how you communicate with others, because I'm similar, which is someone will say, "Oh, I work for Dave." I said, "No, we work together. We're coworkers, right?"
Right.
Yeah, there's a reporting relationship, but quite frankly, that's more often than not, it's just that someone has to be the final decision maker, because you can't have multiple people be the final decision maker. This just doesn't work. And ultimately, um, I might be the final decision maker, but we're making the decisions together, and it's the rare occasion that I'm having rare occasion that I'm having to override someone else's decision.
Yeah, my team knows we have a round table, so there is no head of the table from my appointment setters or my
Oh,
closers. We have a round table where that's the table where you let it all out because we don't get up and talk about someone behind their back. It's on the table, and I'm not the smartest person on my team, but I'm definitely the hardest worker on my team, I would say. But it's a point to where everybody's opinion matters. And I've had so many ideas I've thrown across the table, which were just terrible ideas. And my friends and my team would be like, "Hey, that's a bad idea, Shaun. What about if we do this?" And I'm like, "Wow, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that?" So having communication skills and being open about your ideas and hearing the honest feedback without I think people get too emotional to their ideas. They believe their idea has to go their way, and if it doesn't, well then I don't want to do your idea. It's like let's just win. Let's just get to the finish line and win.
well, it comes back to humility, right? Which is you got to be open to being wrong, even if you're. I remember seeing this. Elon Musk was doing this interview with this guy. And it wasn't even an interview. They were just having a conversation, and he was talking about the solid fuel or something they were using. And he's like, "Well, how come you only use it for the booster and not for that?" And now, it was probably the smartest guy in the world, richest guy in the world. And he's like, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, we need to do that. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah, good idea. And I was just thinking, holy shit, this is the smartest guy in the world who in real time, like said, "Oh, wow, this guy had an idea I didn't have," and he embraced it immediately. It didn't have to be his idea.
100%. Yeah, that's how winners innovate. You have to be innovative. You have to be quick decision making. And right or wrong, you have to make decisions and you have to follow through with them. And at the end of the road, you see where it takes you. So, yeah, I mean, everybody has great ideas.
So I try to differentiate between what I say between judging and evaluating. So I built a bunch of businesses, and when you're trying to build something, you have to evaluate who's working, who's not, who's adding value, who's not. And again, it's not about judging like, you're bad, I'm good. It's just trying to evaluate, okay, is this person going to work on the team? Is the thing they're being asked to do, are they going to be good at it? What are the two or three characteristics that when you're evaluating something, you're like, all right, and again, I hate to use the word loser and winner, but for lack of a better phrase, what are the two or three things that once you've identified them, you're like, you know what, this is going to end up being a loser, or you know what, the two or three things once you've identified them, this person's going to be a winner. What are those to you?
Loyalty is one. When times get hard and the money's coming in, everybody's your best friend. But when times are a little rougher and maybe, during COVID, we had to pivot, right? There's a lot of pivoting in educational space. And maybe there's not a check coming in for a month or two. And it's just what it is in the space as an entrepreneur. And I think me still not having students and still paying my team and seeing how loyal they are to me and saying, "Wait, Shaun, we didn't bring in people. Like, why are you paying us?" And I'm like, "Well, you guys worked. You guys deserve to get paid." And saying, "Well, we don't need it, Shaun. Like, if you didn't make money." So the loyalty is really big to me. So anybody on my team that is loyal, I will bend over backwards for and make sure that they're taken care of more than myself. So that's something that I strongly believe in. If they're loyal, I'll take care of them. Thieves. I don't like people that steal.
Right.
I don't like people that, in the education space, it's easy to get clients maybe that, I had a partner once right after COVID, and it was a student called me and said, "Hey, Shaun, are we ever going to start the mentorship?" And I was like, "What do you mean? You're not a student." He's like, "Well, here's my Cash App that I paid your partner." And then when I confronted him, he just kind of hung up the phone and just never called me back. And I was like, well, that was the best 2K that I ever had. I refunded the student because I was like, I'll take the loss for my good name. And I just lost that guy as a partner. And then so the minute I smell distrust or some sort of conniving thing going on, I don't want that on my team. It just kills. It's like cancer. It kills the whole team. So I just kind of cut it out.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing because it works in both directions. One person, one rotten apple does really spoil the barrel, but the other side is also true. Like the right person on a team can also accelerate everybody because everyone's just like, it's not even so much competition. It's almost like aspirational, like, wow, like look what that person's doing. And I feel like, when I think about building a team, it's like, man, when I can find that person that's super self-motivated, doesn't need to be micromanaged, honestly, I don't even care if they make mistakes, as long as they don't become emotionally invested in their bad decision and they're able to make adjustments, man, that changes everything.
Yeah, making adjustments on the fly, open criticism, not getting your feelings hurt because you were wrong, and then not, self-sabotaging yourself. Because a lot of people, I think the fear of success too is real, where people are so afraid of being successful that they self-sabotage and fail because they're fearful of, well, what if this is too good? I've had that happen too to people.
Man, I can't even wrap my head around that, but I have seen it too. But you're right. It's kind of defies imagination. Well, look, so Elite Trader Academy, where can they find that? Where can they find you? Where can they find, the people on your team that can help change the trajectory of their lives?
Amazing. So if you want to learn how to trade, you're going to go to Instagram at Elite Trader Academy or our website, www.elite-trader.com. That's where you're going to be able to find us, learn more, book a call with my team of appointment setters that will help you and navigate you to talk to me or someone on my team to get you where you want to be at.
Well, Shaun, thanks so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your personal experience. And I'm so excited to be doing this, to be involved with you in it. And it's really exciting. So thanks again.
No, thank you. And then last finishing touches
Sure.
is I still don't, I think I'm going to come back on your podcast again to talk about my proudest moment. I've thought about 2 or 3 of my proudest moments and I just don't have one.
Just one you want to share?
I'll share one of them because it's a good, it's a good one.
Sure.
It's an iconic one, of course, is graduating from boot camp in the Marine Corps is no easy feat. So earning my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor and doing things that a lot of people would never do. I'm pretty proud of that.
I can imagine. I know once you can, that thing that you thought maybe you could do, but you weren't sure you could do it. And then you actually get across the finish line. Such a satisfying feeling.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks again, Shaun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.